Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I prepared the model from paper belonging to a famous brand. I will describe a very beautiful bag work. I want to show you our bag closely. The model is incredibly easy. I shared all the details with you step by step in the video and worked exactly in accordance with the original. Look, I want to show the stems closely. Again, such a leather accessory was used. I used it the same way. It is also quite deep inside. You can use this as a daily bag if you want. If you make it larger, it can also be used as a beach bag. It's a really nice bag. You can also work on a smaller size. It's entirely up to your taste. It is really very practical and easy to make. So you can easily finish such a bag in one day. It took me about a day to complete this, and I enjoyed it immensely while working. I hope you like it and come back. I tried to share with you in detail how much rope we used and the dimensions of our bag in the video. I hope that will be useful. Before moving on to our recipe, I would like to make a small request from you. You can subscribe to our channel for free. I would be really happy if you like the video and leave your comments. Let's move on to our recipe. I used paper string for my bag. I bought my paper thread in skeins by the kilo. After turning it into a ball, I started knitting directly. I didn't do any smoothing, etc. Here I have 3 millimeters in my crochet number. You can determine your crochet number according to the thinness and thickness of your own yarn, the density and looseness of your knitting. I used 3 millimeter crochet hook while working with paper thread. Look here, we need 5 pieces in total. We prepare our bag by knitting 5 separate pieces. First we need a long rectangular piece. This will create the front and back. We need 2 side bellows and we need 2 handles. We knit and prepare these 5 pieces. Then finally, we will combine it and share it with you. Just look at it this way. I put my braids aside. Here, I will use macrame rope to describe our model more easily to you. First, look, I'm pulling the handle and side bellows. We will knit and prepare such a flat rectangular piece. The length of this piece I prepared is 58 centimeters. Its width was 25 centimeters. You can enlarge or reduce the width and length of this piece as you wish. It can work in larger sizes. You can prepare it in smaller sizes. Here we will start with the chain first. Again, my crochet number will be 3 millimeters, while my macro is working with thread. Here, we first start with the chain. After locking our first chain, we prepare our chains so that they are a little looser than the setting we knitted. We won't bother counting chains here so as not to waste time. You should definitely pull and prepare your chains so that they are approximately 10-15 centimeters more than the size we want. If you want to count the chains here, look, the important thing for us is that we are already starting with straight single crochet. The important thing for us is to see that our model here consists of multiples of 3 single crochets. Our needle should also be in the form of multiples of 3. At the beginning, I even drew the straight part. Look, I pulled my chains here at the beginning. When I had a leftover chain, I cut it off. You can also remove it by disassembling it at this point. We won't bother counting chains here. Look, we will knit our single needles in the beginning as multiples of 3. The model where we put the middle part here consists of multiples of 3. We need to count our single crochets as 3 plus 3 plus. Look, I have set up 30 models in total here, right in the middle, so we can count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I built 30 models in total. I started my bag with a total of 90 single needles among 30 models. These measurements and numbers I have given may differ from yours, so you can start with the same number as me, but your measurement may be a little less, maybe a little more. This is a situation that will vary depending on the tightness or looseness of our knitting or the thinness and thickness of our yarn. It is also worth mentioning this. Now I'm quickly preparing my eyeball chains. That's enough for me to describe a small example here. Now I turn the reverse part of my chain, not the straight part. I sink into the dashed lines on the back. I left the last chain and made a loop by sinking into the back cut line of the next chain. I have 2 stitches. I knit single needle. I remove the loop by sinking into the back cut line of the next chain. I knit single needle. In this way, the single needle should be in multiples of 3. We will not count chains. We need to adjust the size of our single needles in the form of 3 plus 3 plus, however much you want. Now let's prepare our single needles in multiples of 3. Since I will describe a small example here, I will set up 4 models. Look, I have completed my 12 single needles. Now we knit 12 rows of single needles here. See how we did this? I don't chain on the turns. I turn my knitting after stretching my stitch slightly. I sink into the first space that comes up, remove the stitch and knit single crochet. At this stage, if you think I knitted too fast, you can slow down the video or, on the contrary, watch it by speeding it up. I knit a single needle directly by inserting it into the space of the next single needle. In this way, I knit my single needles until the end of the row. Let's knit quickly. Look, we have come to the final point. If you are new to knitting and are confused about where to insert the single needle at the beginning and end, you can continue at this stage by counting your single needles. Now we stretched our stitch and turned our knitting. From now on, we will start in the same way by knitting single needles at the first point. Here I want us to immediately move on to explaining the model. Look here, now we have knitted 2 rows of single crochet. At this point, I prepared it by knitting 12 rows of single crochet in total. 12 rows were enough for me. You can increase this number. I worked with exactly the same numbers as in the original. You can change it, of course. Now look, our single needles will continue like this. The endings and beginnings are, as I have described, we make turns by sinking directly into the first space without a chain. Now, at this point, since I am going to set up the model, I make 1, 2, 3 chains and turn my knitting and fill it to the beginning of the crochet. Look, this chain is an upward chain. We will not count it. I leave the first gap and sink into the second gap, knitting a double handrail. I knit the 2 together. I wrap them together again. I sink into the next gap and remove the stitch. Both together, both together. I created a double handrail by knitting. I wrapped it again. See, I left the first space here. This chain does not go up. I fill the first gap with the beginning of my hook. I'm going backwards and sinking into the first void I left. I remove the loop from here and lengthen my loop a little bit. I'm filling up. Then double handrail again, both together, both together. I looped it again. See what I knitted here is not the handrail point. I leave the next single crochet space here. I sink into the next space and knit 2 handrails side by side, the second handrail in the next space. Look, I leave a gap and fill 2 handrails side by side. Now I go backwards. Look, it's quite easy. Model. I go backwards, insert the needle into the top of the single needle I left blank, remove the stitch and knit a double crochet. Just look at the model and double handrails are formed. The only trick here is to leave a gap and knit 2 handrails side by side, then sink the third handrail into the gap we left and adjust 3 handrails in this way. Our model only consists of handrails. We wrap it around, leaving a gap and sinking into the next one. Again, we knit 2 side-by-side handrails. This is how we wrap it, going backwards. We sink into the point we left empty and knit a double handrail. We leave a gap again and go to the next double handrail. Here is our last single needle point. We sink into this point and fill a double handrail. We sink to the point we skipped and knit a double handrail. We have knitted a long diagonal handrail like this. Look, we have set up our first row model like this. I want to show it closely. After completing our row here, we draw 1, 2, 3 chains again and go up and turn our knitting. We wrap it around the head of our crochet hook and look at the last gap. We leave the first gap. We sink into the second gap and create 2 side-by-side handrails. We are knitting here. In the meantime, we are repeating the model exactly. We have wrapped it around. Here, we immediately sink into the headspace of the handrail we left, remove the loop, and knit a long double handrail, thus knitting the third handrail here. We use the chain to go up. Look, we do not accept this as a banister. We got around, leaving a gap, sinking into the second gap, 2 handrails side by side. Look, we repeat the 2-row model like this. We leave a gap and knit 2 handrails side by side. Then we wrap it around again, sinking backwards to the point we left empty and knitting a long handrail. Look, it takes a V shape like this. Now let's complete the model. Leave a space and move on to the next one. Look, there is a chain dot here again. We are not sinking into this chain spot. We sink to the last railing and knit and fill the second railing. We sink into the spot we left empty and knit a double handrail. In this way, we completed the model. Now at this point, we will knit 2 rows of single crochet. We stretch our loop slightly. Look, we repeated the model in 2 rows. Let's knit our single crochets quickly until the end of the row by sinking into the first space that comes up. In this row, we will have 12 single crochets in total. In this middle part, we have 2 rows of single crochets right in the middle. Look, I touch the chain. After sinking into the last railing and knitting single crochets, I'm turning the stitch back to the stitch again. I'm knitting my second row of single crochet again. Look, we've set up the 2-row model. We knit 2 rows of single needles. Now I will show my big part. Here, after knitting 2 rows of single crochet, we set up our pattern again with 2 rows. So we repeated the process we did here, that is, the process I described to you here, 1 more row, that is 1 or 2 more rows. Then we completed this point by knitting 12 single crochet stitches. I knitted the needles as tightly in this final finish as I knitted them here. I completed my knitting in this way by knitting 12 rows of single crochet, 2 rows of pattern, 2 rows of single crochet in the middle, 2 rows of repeat pattern, and 12 rows of single crochet. We knit and prepare the first piece in this way. Afterwards, we knitted the side bellows, which we had in 2 pieces. It was 27 centimeters long and 7 centimeters wide. I prepared 2 pieces the same way. I will show you the same starting technique here. Once again, we start with the chain. We knit single needle. Look, just to show you a small example. Here I drew 12 chains. I prepared my side bellows with 11 single needles. I also shared the measurements with you. Now let's knit a small piece. Look, we leave the first chain again, sink to the second point, and knit single crochet on the back cut line. I knitted single crochet by sinking into the back dashed lines. In this way, there are 11 side bellows in total. And look here, we knitted single needles in the same way as I showed in this large piece where I made the ending and the beginning, and here we knitted our handle. There is an extra detail on the handle here. I will share this with you too. For my handle, I knitted 4 single needles. Look, I have 4 single needles right now. Then think of it as knitting the side blinds with these 4 single needles. There are 11 single crochet stitches here. This one has 4 single crochet stitches. After knitting and preparing it, I applied the reverse single crochet technique to the edges. I want to show this to you right away. Let us share the dimensions with you here. The handle measures 37 centimeters. We knitted 2 pieces in this way. The width is 37 and 3 centimeters. The numbers do not matter. You can extend the length as much as you want. So as I said, it is not right to give the numbers because your measurements may be slightly different from mine. The thinness and thickness of this yarn depends on our knitting frequency and looseness. Since it will change depending on the source, even if we use the same yarn and the same crochet number, there will definitely be differences. Now, while working on the handle, look here. I knitted 2 or 4 single crochets. I turned my knitting directly. We knitted single crochets by sinking into the first space that came up. We use this technique constantly in our bag, both in the large piece, in the side bellows, and in the handle. Then we insert a single crochet and turn it again, insert into the first gap, and look, we knit a single crochet like this. Let's knit a little bit. I will share with you the reverse single crochet technique on the handle right away. Here you can enlarge this until it is the length you want. If you want, you can use ready-made stems. It doesn't have to be the same. Now, after the last needle prick, I eased my stitch. Look, I'm sinking towards the top of the last single needle I knitted. I removed the noose. I have 2 loops sinking backwards. I knitted single needle. Look again. I'm sinking into the top of the next backward single needle. I removed the noose. I have 2 stitches. I knitted single needle. Purl single crochet. We repeat the same single crochet, but look backwards. Dip the needle into the space at the back, remove the stitch, and make a single needle. I'm sinking right into this spot in the corner. Single needle. Look, I'm sinking into the space on the next side. I remove the stitch and insert the single needle into the intermediate space. I knit the single needle with a single needle at each point, purl single needle. Look, I insert the appropriate gaps in this way. When I reach the chained point, I insert it once into each chain point. There are 4 chain points here, see purl. I continue like this with single crochet. I break my thread here. I left it long here. Be sure to leave your rope long, because when assembling these handles to our final bag, we need to start and finish with a long rope at both ends, both when starting and finishing. As for the side bellows, look, I left my rope a little long here while finishing. While knitting the side bellows, I left long threads as we would use a crochet hook to sew them together. Now we have knitted and prepared our pieces like this. Now let's move on to making our bag a whole. Here we placed our first knit. I fastened it immediately with safety pins. Here, look, I left our yarn long after knitting the last single needle. Now at this point, I am taking out my safety needle. In order to knit comfortably, look, my last stitch is on the single needle. I cut my yarn long and broke it. Now we will continue knitting my stitch here again. Waiting right now. Look, I'm sinking into the incoming single needle point here. I take out the loop and tie it by slipping it once. Then we will dip into the space where the single crochet is and look at this point at the end again. Remove the stitch and work on the single crochet again. I knit straight single crochet. I sink into mutual spaces. Look, in both parts, I sink into both my bag and the side blind. Look, I dive directly into two pieces. Remove the stitch and knit a single crochet. I dive into the appropriate spaces mutually, remove the stitch and knit a single crochet. Now look at this way. It is a very simple combination. Knit a single crochet and look at our bag with this side blind crochet technique. We will complete it by joining it in this way. The other piece I have shown you here. I will apply the same process to the other side in the same way. Then we will move on to sewing the handles of our bag. But before sewing the stems, we need to knit 2 rows and the mouth part. After knitting the mouth part in 2 rows, we will finally complete our bag by sewing our handles. We completed our bag by sewing the side bellows. Now look here, I cut my threads and here I am again, taking my thread and hook and creating a loop with a chain at this point. I'm coming from this corner if you want, that is, wherever you want to start, you can start from there. I'm going to start from the middle part of the side blind. I'm sinking directly, I remove the stitch, I'm knitting a single crochet, knitting 1 single crochet at each point here. See the mouth part in 2 rows. We'll continue by knitting 2 rows of single crochet like this. Look at the incoming single needles. I continued by knitting single needles. I put a single needle in this junction point. I insert a single needle right at this intermediate point, a single needle, then insert into the appropriate spaces in the next row. Look, I continue by knitting single needles by sinking into the intermediate spaces in this way. I started in this way, see 2 rows. I will knit the mouth part in 2 rows by knitting single crochet, and then I will break my thread here, and then I will have completed my bag by sewing the handles. We have completed the bag by sewing the handles. I used approximately 300-400 grams of katip. If you want to make your bag larger, you will need more rope. It is also useful to say this. The width of my bag was 25 cm and the length was 30 cm. I tried to share the recipe with you in detail. I hope that will be useful. I had great fun while working and was very pleased with the result. I hope you like it and try it too. I wish good luck to those who will do it. Don't forget to like our video, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye until we see you in the next video.